We are live. I should have gone. We are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Blake Ruffino. This is Are You Serious Sports. Hope all of you are making it a good one. We know that we are as well. Huge show in store for you tonight. Carter Bryant, as he does every single Monday. Carter Bryant joins us at 7:30. You already know what we're going to be talking about. Obviously, we're recapping and talking about the LSU spring game, which we will do with him at great length. The WNBA draft is tonight. Angel Reese looking so, how do I want to say this? She looks nice. A married man. She looks nice. So we'll see where Angel Reese gets drafted here tonight as well. LSU baseball swept in Knoxville. Not good, Clark. Not good at all. We'll lead the show off with that before we get to some football, maybe some final takes I have before we talk with Carter. But now you got to win every single series from here on out. Every single series you have to win. And if you lose one, you can't get swept. And if you do lose a series along the way, you got to sweep somebody. You go to Como this weekend, you got to win the series. If you want to get to that magical number, which is 13, you cannot lose no more. If you want to turn your season around, it's right now. Hey, there's no tomorrow. Right now. Cannot lose. And you might need to get a sweep in there to get to 14 to make yourself feel a little bit better. We'll talk about the transfer portal. Might go on a little Rufino's rants to end the show here. So we got a good one in store for you. Let's get to a couple of these comments. Jordan says, Nuss looked great at the spring game. I do concur there with you. Stephen Busby says, let's go. Hit the like and share. That is very much true. Elwin says, Jace got this. It's baseball. We'll see. We will see. Go hard or go home on YouTube says, yo, good to see you in here, my man. Dane Bergeron's in the building. He says, good evening, Blake. Good evening, good sir. Blaine Smith says, what's up, Blake? Give me the impressions of the defense. We will do that here tonight. My immediate impression is right now, I don't think they're good enough to get where you want to go. They are not good enough for you to get where you need to go. So I'm sure we'll discuss that with Carter. Rewatch the game a couple of times today and just going back through a lot of my notes from spring. A lot of people are like, you can't take anything from spring. Well, I don't think that that's necessarily true if you have a really good area or if you have a really bad area. If an individual player stands out, well, I think you need to make note of that, and we will. Kevin says D-line, D-line, D-line. And maybe a corner and a running back. Who knows? But yes, D-line for 1,000% sure. Greg Paul 7 says, I don't know how they fix it. Who are you? You are who you are at this point. Well, I will remind you, Greg. Now, I don't know if LSU can do this. So when I use this comparison, don't think that I think LSU can win a national championship this year. Clearly, I do not believe that. Ole Miss, this is where Ole Miss turned things around when they won a national championship. Last team in, last team out. So I will just remind everybody, baseball can be weird, but you can't afford to lose a series moving forward, and you got Texas A&M, who's the number one team in the country, right? And if I'm not mistaken, they come to you. So if you do lose to like Texas A&M, then you got to sweep maybe an Auburn or a Mississippi State to get to – look, 10 wins is the magic number. If we're cutting it down to brass tacks, which we'll talk about all this. We'll talk about all this. Dane Bergeron says, truth hurts, but you are correct. This baseball team is not good enough. Well, I was talking about the D-line, but yes, them too. Penn Jones says, hearing anything on the D-lineman from Louisville. I am not. Not right now, at least. I would assume he's not technically in the portal yet. So I don't know how many teams have – I'm sure there have been teams that have reached out to him, but they're not going to say that they have publicly. Joe says Greedy Vance. I don't know about Greedy Vance. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily hate him being here, but, we'll talk about it. Because really and truthfully, I think there's one big thing that we got to talk about the secondary, because everybody's mad at me or you're mad at somebody. Well, Blake's mad at or doesn't like Sage Ryan. Guys, I could care less about, and I shouldn't say it like that. I'd have no ill will towards Sage Ryan whatsoever. But you can't tell me on the Kyron Lacey touchdown when you have both corners and safety on one side and both corner and safety on the other side running cover 2. BK said it was cover 3. Well, then the entire DB room missed it. Besides one, that being Sage Ryan. So at both corners, PJ Woodland, Nash, and Stamps didn't miss it. They were running cover 2. And that's clear in the all-22 copy. I mean, it's massively clear. So it is what it is. It is what it is. Jonathan Field says they're not getting 10 wins. If you're talking about baseball, it does get a lot easier, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. GHGH squared says we really needed McKinley to as an early enrollee. Yeah. But, I mean, it doesn't – it would have benefited him, but it doesn't really change what you would have done in the spring, I don't think. I still think that this offensive line would have dominated regardless. And look, I'll continue to say this until I'm blue in the face. It's not fair for Don McKinley for us to put that much on him like that. Maybe I'm wrong. You can correct me if you believe differently, but Don McKinley's coming here a lot like Mason Smith. You need him to be dominant now, and I don't know if that's fair to him. Like for example, Georgia has multiple 5-star defensive linemen. Those guys aren't pressured to come in and start right away. They're just not. So I don't think it's fair to Dominic McKinley. I think they need to get 3 guys in the portal and let them fight it out. But that does mean that you got to cut 6. And I told you this last week, and I want to emphasize this again here before we get rolling. Today is cut day. And I told you last week, and I told you the week before, if you think that Brian Kelly isn't already or will be cutting dudes, you're wrong. He's got to. They're over the scholarship limit, and they need defensive interior tackles. They need DTs. So they've got to cut at least 6. It's not pretty. Well, technically 5 because Jackson Howard's going into the portal, but not pretty. And it's not something that you or me or anybody likes to talk about, but it's the truth. It 1,000% is the truth. All right, let's get rolling. Everybody do us a favor. Hit the like and share. Share all those social media groups. Share to all of those social media pages. If you're watching us, listening to us on YouTube, like, subscribe, notification bell, wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. We greatly appreciate y'all doing that. Let's talk about our good friends over at BetOnline, our good friend Tyler Alexander over at LPT Realty, and our good friends over at J&J Exterminating. Before we get to that, I need to give all of you a massive thank you. All of you. A massive, massive thank you. This past week, I asked in a call to service for all of you to help me with our good friend Tyler Alexander, whose mom, Christy, is battling Parkinson's. They did a fundraiser for her, and my goodness, did you AYS people stand up? And I appreciate that. It means the world to me that we can use this platform to be able to help somebody in great need. So I want to thank you. We donated, me and my wife helped and donated. I actually didn't tell her, but regardless, we do this as a team. We donated. She is going through a lot of battles right now. Okay. And you got to help. You got to help. And I just want to thank all of you for sending the donations, going and getting plates, jambalaya plates. It was much, much, much appreciated. All right, let's get rolling. Don't go anywhere. We're back next. We got to talk about getting swept in Knoxville. We'll talk a lot of LSU football next. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events, with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
Louisiana is unique. The food, the festivals, even the bugs. No, not mud bugs. Unwanted bugs like these. The ones you don't want crawling in your home or business. Trust the Shield from J&J Exterminating. We've been protecting Louisiana homes for over 50 years, earning the trust of our clients because we deliver what we promise. Protect your home from pests. Get the Shield from J&J Exterminating.
J&J Exterminating. Yeah.
We're back. All right. Let's get this thing rolling, y'all. So, LSU went up to Knoxville this past weekend and got swept. And it's not what you wanted. It's not what I wanted. I think it deflated not only the team, but the fan base, because this was the one, if you really, really, really wanted to start to get going, not that you needed, it's not that I think we would still be okay if you would have gotten a win in Knoxville on the number 4 team in the country. Like, hey, okay, well, they're just a better team. They won 2 or 3, but you got swept. And the same thing continues with this team that it has all season. You're just not ready for the moment. And I don't think that you can be ready for the moment. And I don't think you can get ready for the moment right now. It is a very difficult thing to overcome when you're in close games and you still find ways to lose them. I hear a lot of your complaints. Michael Braswell, Nate Yeske, Brady Neal. I understand them. And those guys got to pick it up. Coaches and players alike. But it's theoretically not over. As bad as this team has looked at times, it's still not technically over, because I have told you, here is the magic number. The magic number is 10. The reason that it's 10 is because if you, meaning LSU, get to that 13th win mark in the conference, you're going to get in. You did it with Paul Maneri this last year, and you have the brand, and I do think that, there are a lot of people on that committee that favor LSU because they have Louisiana ties. But regardless of all of that, if you want to make the postseason, you can't lose this next weekend. This weekend. You can't go up to Como and lose 2 out of 3. Now, Missouri swept Florida a couple weekends ago. They haven't been as bad as some people thought that they would be. It's not like what we thought in the beginning of the season. Hey, we can just go to Missouri and sweep the Tigers. No, that's not true. Now, I hope that you can, and I hope that you do, because if you do, then you definitely can get to that 13-win mark. It is very doable because you still have Ole Miss. You still have Auburn. Now, Texas A&M is maybe a little bit of a different story because they are now the number 1 team in the country. I don't know, man. Look, I came out here on the post-game show and said that I am not look, quite simply, I am just not going to have the conversation with you, and nor do I think it's correct or right to have the conversation about Jay Johnson. I've seen you in the chat. I've seen you on our show. We talked about it on Friday. I'm just not going to hear when you say, oh, he's at Orgeron. Guys, Jay Johnson brought another team at another program that doesn't have the resources, facilities, anything at LSU. He brought him to a national championship. Well, Blake, he lost it. Guys, he got to a national championship and with another program got them back there and won it. Stop with the Ed Orgeron comparison. If you want to make an Ed Orgeron comparison, go look at what Ed did at Ole Miss. Jay runs laps around him of what he's done at other places. And this is Jay's probably and arguably, and I think he would tell you, toughest years as a coach. And I don't think that Jay would, like, he might not say that publicly, but if off the record, I 100% believe that Jay Johnson would tell you this is the toughest season that he's ever had. By far. Because it's not like you're losing games constantly by getting blown out. Let me give an example. I thought that Luke Holman was fantastic the other night. We questioned him going on the road and being dynamic because he wasn't bad at all. He was actually pretty stinking good. But then you got two runners on, and you go to Griffin Herring in a lefty-lefty matchup, in the first pitch he throws, it's a double, and you lose the lead on a guy in Griffin Herring that's been very impressive this year. It's just every move that Jay has made and every button that he has pushed has backfired on him, where last year the baseball gods were in his favor when a lot of buttons that he pushed. Like I remember Ole Miss last year. Remember when you were in Oxford and it took a pitch hit Hayden Travinsky home run in the ninth for you to come back and win it, which, by the way, Ole Miss did beat Mississippi State this past weekend. They hadn't done that since 2015, win a series against Mississippi State. But the buttons he pressed last year worked. This year, they are not working. Kay Beloso is another one in the midseason that Jay put in there, and it really starting having success. I know you don't want to hear it. Yes, I have hit a panic button because, look, there's no margin of error anymore. And if you slip up, which could be this weekend, and you don't play to your ability, which I still think that they have the ability, if you don't play up to it, your season can be over this weekend. Your season remotely could be over this weekend because, listen, if you go and you can't win the sixth SEC series that you're in, you're not going to beat Ole Miss. You're not going to beat A&M. You're not going to take game. You're not going to, I don't want to say you won't take games. You're not going to win those series. I think it'll be very tough for you because Ole Miss is not a bad team. They against Mississippi State, they did something that you couldn't. You want to know what that is? When the moment got biggest, they had back-to-back walk-offs. Now, Mike Bianco went stupid on, I think it was Saturday, but Will Furness, which kind of stinks because Eddie Furness, who was a legend here, Will Furness walked the game off for Ole Miss on Sunday. God, you could really use Will Furness right now. They will get this turned around. They will get this fixed and back into a right direction. It's just so deflating when you go to Knoxville or go anywhere and get swept. There's nothing ever acceptable about getting swept. Never. It just isn't. And I look at this team and say, I think that they have the ability. They have the individual talent. They could win this weekend because I don't know if I can pick them. There are a lot of things in me that says I got to see them win a series. And I know that it's Missouri. I know that their baseball lore isn't as good as ours, not even in the same stratosphere. I know that they're not a top-tier SEC program when it comes to baseball. Guys, they play with a chip on their shoulder, and they want it more than you do. Oh, by the way, a team that has been rising and a team that's not been too bad has the former national champions coming in with a new coaching staff who wants to make a statement. Your back is up against the wall. I don't know what else to say. I don't really know what else Jay can do. I legitimately don't. But if you're a player in that locker room, you've got to look yourself in the mirror and say, it's put up or shut up time now. We cannot afford to continue to lose. Now, a question was posed to me this weekend that I think I should address. I was asked if I thought that the locker room was fractured because of things that's going inside of it. Here's the answer that I'll give you. I just don't know. But when I have been on one team in my life where we've lost like this, or lost and it was just continuous. It is so hard to get over that hurdle, and your locker room can become toxic. It can become unfocused, and I do think that this team lacks tons of focus. You know, like Haynes Travinsky, it's a home run, but you leave so many guys on base, you're unable to get big hits. Bingham comes up twice with guys and runners in scoring position, and he can't get a hit in either one of those at bats. It's really, really tough. Very, very, very tough for you to overcome when you have moments and you can't live up to them. Yeah, you can hit home runs. This team can hit solo home runs all the live long day. But you know what the ironic thing about baseball is? It just takes one time when you got runners on second and third for Bear Jones, Tommy Tanks to come up and hit one 420 feet, and then you start gaining confidence because hitting can be contagious. We'll talk a lot about LSU baseball. They'll play tomorrow. I will tell you, I am not intending to continue to go in these post games in the midweek. I think we're done with those. I'm not going to waste my time doing a post game on a Tuesday night when, quite frankly, we could do it if they were making a regional. I continue to do it, but I don't think I can continue to do post games in the midweek. So be on your tippy toes tomorrow when we may go live for AYS. Got a lot of baseball talk. We'll talk more about it tomorrow. But you got swept, guys. I'm on repeat at this point. I feel like I could tape an episode and replay it every single weekend, and the same exact things are going to continue to be true. There's nothing new. Like, I could sit here because I chart every single game. Charted Sunday, charted Saturday, charted Friday. I can go line by line for you and tell you where you lost. Crucial moments that you lost. You know them as well. But when you don't overcome them, and you can't overcome them once in a weekend, this is not to put down on Gavin Guidry whatsoever. I mean, this is multiple times now, 3 times this season where your team needed you to put, and it's a tough situation to come in, and I get it, but you had to come in and make a pitch, and you leave a belt-high fastball that gets sent to the bleachers. There was a reason that you had not seen Gavin Guidry pitching in 14 days before Sunday's appearance. I don't know what they do with him right now. I have no clue. I think they got to go to Aiden Moffitt, and they got to go to Cam Johnson. And if they need Gavin Guidry, they need him. But until then, I don't think you can put him in a weekend rotation coming out of the pen whatsoever. All right. Carter Bryant joining us in 2 minutes. We could take a couple of your comments here, and we'll do that. We'll just talk a lot because we're going to talk a lot of football with Carter. Let's just talk about it with him. Adam says hitting is contagious. Apparently, so is shitting the bed. It is. It 1,000% is. Baseball is a weird sport, man. It's a finicky sport. But when I look at them, they just can't overcome what they need to overcome. Right? Like, it's just. So, yeah. We got some breaking news. Angel Reese has been drafted 7th by the Minnesota Lynx. Congratulations to the Bayou Barbie. Congratulations. An all-time LSU icon has been drafted. Did y'all see did I say this? She would look very nice. She did. Did y'all see what she was wearing? Good for Angel, man. Happy for her. She came off the stage. I'm looking at this right now. She came off the stage and gave Kim Mulkey a massive hug and great embrace. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Happy for Angel. All right. Couple more of these. No super chats, guys? None? All right. I want to get to this because we're going to Carter next. Dwayne says Stravinsky lollygagging the second base and got thrown out. Yeah, that pissed me off. I'm not going to lie. Oh, it was the Chicago Sky. Well, the thing I just retweeted said the Minnesota Lynx. So is the WNBA's graphic wrong? It is wrong. How about that? Good for Angel regardless. All right. Caitlin Clark was the first pick. Come on. Y'all know that. Oh, it was a trade. Okay. It was a trade. All right. So I wasn't tripping. See, I'm watching the Yankees game right here. I'm not watching the WNBA draft. You know who probably was watching the WNBA draft before he hopped on the show? That was Carter, the Power Bryant. Let's do this. We got tons and tons of spring football stuff we need to talk about. Nobody better to talk about it with than Carter Bryant. The most electrifying, if you smell, the most electrifying interview that we do every week. The man is with us next. Stay with us.
Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Falls and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with a great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Falls has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. By the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Whether you've been injured in an accident, you're preparing for a future with your estate planning, you're getting ready to close in on a real estate deal, or you're about to welcome a new addition through adoption into your family, or you're facing criminal charges, you need very experienced attorneys, and that is what the Drake Williams Law Firm will be able to do for you in navigating the legal system. The door to their cozy office in historic downtown Ponchatoula has been open since 1981. They have helped thousands and thousands of Louisiana families and individuals win cases, close on real estate deals, and regain that peace of mind. Their lawyers over at the Drake Williams Law Firm, Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, are very determined, compassionate, and dedicated to their craft. It's the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. Tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by.
Bayou Daiquiris at Bayou Bowl and Go is owned and operated locally by Steve and Lisa Bean. You can find them at 1512 North Highway 190 in Covington, Louisiana. That's 1512 North Highway 190 in Covington. The North Shore's first crawfish drive-thru is about to step it up another notch by bringing you drive-thru daiquiris as well. You can call in your order today at 985-888-1914, 985-888-1914, because you know what? Daiquiris and crawfish, it's a Louisiana thing. I'm using my golf clap, Mr. Carter, like my name is Scotty Scheffler.
Blake, it is kind of weird because I work with a golf company, but I have never really played golf before. But shout out to the most boring golfer of all time winning it all, Scotty Scheffler. I needed one of the live guys to win. I needed something new, but boring Scotty Scheffler wins it all. My goodness gracious.
He looks like, because he did go to the University of Texas, he is the poster child of what the white man at the University of Texas is supposed to look like. Am I lying?
Yeah. I mean, look, no. I thought the story with his wife was very interesting. And look, if he is truly transcendent, and he doesn't have a big personality.
Number one golfer in the world, man. He lets his play do the talking.
Well, the key is going to be getting a good nickname, right? Because Jack Nicklaus wasn't the absolute most interesting guy, but he was the Golden Bear. So, Scotty,
I see when you got a name like Scotty, though, Scotty could just be like a first name. Like, hey, if you're having like a golf conversation, like, dude, Scotty,
right.
like. Like Tiger's a one-word name. Scotty could be this exact same way. I don't know if he needs a nickname. I just think that the Chef Man. Oh, I like that. The Chef Man. How about that? That's a nickname. The Chef Man.
Yeah. What's cooking, man? You see, that's what Scotty needs to do every time he makes a putt.
He just needs to call me. He just needs to call me, and I will make this for him. But very, very fun Masters weekend. But I will tell you, I do think UFC 300 won the weekend. I'm going to be talking about that later on. Yeah. But Carter, you're here tonight to talk about the LSU spring game and what you saw. Let me not sugarcoat it. Let me not just like bounce this around. Pause. But let's get right down to brass tacks here. I have a big problem. Can I tell you what it is? I'm not going to say, look, BK knows more what's going on in the program than I ever will, clearly. But he said after the spring game, after the defense had some struggles, that, and this is per quote, that we were very vanilla on defense. Well, I have a problem with that because how are you so vanilla on defense and you had 2 blown coverages? So if you're vanilla, that makes this worse. If you were running some exotic type stuff and then blown coverage and be like, all right, they just throwing shit at the wall and see what's going to stick. But when you're that vanilla and that base and you have 2 blown coverages, Carter, I don't care what anybody tells you. Now we're starting to see a personnel issue, not necessarily a coaching issue.
Yeah, Blake. So I was actually at the spring game, and first off, shout out to everyone that said they listen to this segment every Monday.
Number 1 player in the country, Bryce Underwood.
Yeah. So actually, I've not been watching the WNBA draft. I've actually been editing my interview with Bryce Underwood that will air tomorrow on Power Hour LSU. So really, Bryce and his dad. His dad is actually like one of the most interesting guys I've ever spoken to in any interview. But yeah, really excited for everyone to see that. So just to give you a little behind the scenes, part of why I go to the games, Blake, is so like I can speak to these kinds of people. I just introduced myself and they were very gracious with their time, but also, as you know, shake hands with people that, you know, you can't shake hands with through the TV. So my biggest takeaway from the spring game is I feel a lot more comfortable about Bryce Underwood being an LSU Tiger. So he is locked in. Family is planning to move to Baton Rouge. That was something that Jay shared with us. So, and Jay being his dad. So I'm really excited about that. I'm also really excited about hearing the coaches. That was something I wanted to see is how everyone is doing, transitioning to their new roles, especially on the defensive side of the football. Everyone that I speak to says that they're really excited about that. But what everyone saw was the actual play. And I'm with you, Blake. The blown coverages are one thing, but what was very interesting to me, Blake, wasn't just that guys are running open for deep touchdown passes, is there was on both of those plays another guy wide open that would have scored a touchdown if Garrett Nussmeier would have thrown in a different direction, right? So on the Xavier Thomas deep touchdown throw, Aaron Anderson would have walked in for a touchdown as well if he would have thrown in that direction. If he didn't throw to Kyron Lacey, he would have hit Mason Taylor over the middle, and while it wouldn't have been a touchdown, it would have been at least a 30 to 40-yard gain. So, Blake, it's not just the blown coverages. It's just everybody was running wide open on those deep passing concepts, and that is definitely not what LSU wants to see.
What do you make of that happening? What was the problem in your estimation? Because, look, I got in these arguments, and me and you went through the All-22 last night. I'm going to just take people through a little bit of what we do here. But the Kyron Lacey, everybody's like, it was cover 3. BK said it was cover 3. Well, if it was cover 3, okay, well, then somebody forgot to tell the other corner and safety who are running cover 2. Right?
Yeah.
And so he said it's cover 3. No, it's not. Like, we have the footage, and you and I go through it. It is not cover 3. It is cover 2. And Sage doesn't get over there. It is what it is. I don't care who blew the coverage, but that's my point. I don't give a shit who blows the coverage, because if you're that vanilla, you blew it. What did you see of why they blew those 2 coverages?
Yeah, so I'll push back just a little bit, Blake, on the cover 3, cover 2 thing. I do agree with you. It did look like with the safety splitting out the way that he did, it did look like 2. But honestly, and this goes for even
We don't know the play call.
Yeah, you don't know the
Right.
call. Like it's hard to ever definitively say it was
If
this or
you
that.
had to make an assumption of what they ran,
Right.
that's how I go about it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
okay.
The plays. I'm just making an assumption.
Yeah.
You got two safeties going out. You have two safeties at 10 yards and close to the line of scrimmage. Well, Carter, I mean that's as base cover two as you can get. It's not like PJ Woodland and Ashton Stamps both blew the coverage.
Yeah, Blake, honestly, if the coverages are blown that poorly, I normally put that more on the safeties than the corner more often than not when I see
Okay,
coverages that are blown. Well, it's because the safety is oftentimes making calls back there and getting people aligned. And normally, if there are blown coverages, at the end of plays, one thing, and this is something that bothered me, but if there's blown coverages and guys are walking into the end zone, I like it when a secondary immediately starts looking at this direction or that direction. But after both the plays, the secondary was like, didn't act like nothing happened, right? Normally, you know what I'm talking about?
Like they got beat.
Yeah. And I was like, that's kind of bizarre, right? But
Right.
It's honestly very hard to definitively say one way or the other, Blake, because the coverages did look very, very, very bizarre in how they were blown just by where the safeties were. And what happens, Blake, sometimes when there are two people running wide open, as there were on both plays, the other guy that's running wide open affects the wide openness of the other guy. Right. So let's say the first one is Xavier Thomas.
You think Sage Ryan was going to Aaron Anderson?
Yeah. So Sage was running over the top to help because he saw that Xavier Thomas was wide open. And he then turned and ran towards Aaron Anderson because he also saw Aaron Anderson was wide open. And Jordan Gilbert actually kind of sort of did the same thing. And they were both trying to fix an error when secondaries and how pass defenses normally work is you just got to do your job. So the bottom line is the jobs weren't done. And the bottom line, Blake, is the LSU secondary had another tough spring game. And hopefully that changes. It did do some good things, but ultimately it's just rough when you see those things happen.
All right, let's talk about some good things that they did. Would you like? I mean, I think PJ Woodland showed all 165 pounds of him that he can play here. Carter, I'm just still a little worried about them on the boundary, if I'm being honest. I mean, I think PJ can be fine, but look, you still had a quarterback go 7 for 7 and just go off on you. I mean, like, it's not as if that, like, you still got to play Jackson Dart. You still got to play Miller Moss. You still got to play, I know people don't like this, but Jalen Milroe. But there are a lot of dudes that you got to play that you just can't do some of the things that you did against them and think that it's going to be corrected. But what are some good things that you saw?
And on top of that, Connor Wigman and the huge upgrade they had at their OC with Colin Klein coming over from Kansas State. And remember, we went up against him just a few years ago. But I got to be honest with you, Blake. As far as positives are concerned, I thought Harold Perkins did some really good things at linebacker. My favorite defensive play of the game was him taking Will Campbell head on in the hole. That showed me physicalness. It showed me toughness. It also showed me selflessness because him taking on Will Campbell in the hole allowed Greg Penn to go make the tackle on Josh Williams. The problem is Greg Penn did not make the tackle.
Right. And you know what? That would have set the tone for the whole day.
Yes.
And that was the first play. Harold did exactly what he needed to do for that play to be successful.
Yeah, you're right. It was one of the first plays, and man, that showed me a lot from Perk. Obviously, you know, the linebackers. We'll see how they develop. Blake, you've been hammering this. I think everyone knows at this point defensive tackle is an issue. But you did have some very interesting performances at defensive end, in particular Gabriel Relaford and Paris Shand, even though those were against the backups. Blake, offensively, two guys really stood out to me. I thought both running backs, Caleb Jackson and Josh Williams, played really well. But these two players really did a lot of things right. One of those was Xavier Thomas. He plays like he is shot out of a cannon. And, Brian Kelly mentioned in the post-game press conference, once everything gets settled down for him and once he really understands the nuance of all the different positions, he is going to be a big-time player for LSU next year. And the next guy is Mason Taylor. Just a phenomenal game. He had the big block on Harold Perkins to give Caleb Jackson the touchdown run on the counter. And, he just got open. He looked better as a receiver. So those two guys in particular, Kamarion Pipton as well, it was a mostly good day for most of the LSU offensive players.
All right, I'm going to take that line by line. You start off with the defensive tackles. I hate to go back negative before I go positive, but it's the order you went in. Carter, I started covering this team in 2017. Okay. There is no position group that I can remember being this bad. I just look, it's something that I've been hammering home all spring, and people have kind of just laughed me off. To some people have, right? And people thought that I was over-exaggerating when I said Josh Williams, Caleb Jackson, Carter, they're running wide open. They're running free. And what we saw, which I'm going to get back to about this running game that I love, and yes, it's an eye roll, but I just don't, like, they're going to have to get three, Carter. Like, they're going to – I don't know if Paez is one of the three that they want to get. Carter, the portal's opening tomorrow. And if you have any realistic shot, which I do think that you can if you do this, you're two defensive tackles away from making a playoff. It's that simple. You're just not good enough there. I think that they're the worst unit. I know that you'll probably push back on maybe like a 2020 O-line, but that team had three guys drafted. Like, three guys got drafted on that team. Carter, nobody in that interior defensive line right now will get drafted. Much less, maybe one of them is an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, no, it's a tough group. It really, really, really is, and it's gonna take a lot of change. And ultimately, the big issue is there's just not a lot of good DTs in the portal
right now.
Yeah, right now. I just don't know how many are actually going to get in there. If you know that every other team is after defensive tackles. It's been reported.
Bama wants to, after what happened to them on Saturday. Georgia wants another one. I mean, you're going to have to go out and spend money. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah, and, I was fortunate to talk to one in the portal earlier this week, and, he's going through a ton of visits. I mean, he is making a lot of visits, and, he's not necessarily the second coming of Glenn Dorsey, and he's getting recruited by every single big name school that's out there. So it's going to be interesting, Blake. They've got to go find some portal guys, but it's just a simple supply and demand thing. There's not a whole lot of supply and there's a lot of demand. So it's going to take, writing a check potentially for one of the better names that are in there.
I hate saying that about them because there's people that are really I really like that are in that room as people. But I mean, Carter, I can't come out here and sugarcoat it anymore. I mean, like, they performed and have performed all spring that poorly, and I do think that they thought Mason Smith was coming back, and I think that's why they didn't address it sooner. And when Mason said in the 12th hour or 11th hour, "I'm not coming back," it really shocked them. I really do believe that to my heart of hearts. All right, number two.
No.
You said Harold Perkins. I agree with you. And see, I don't want to make an ultimate determination because the guys in front of him, those DTs, are so bad. But man, when Will Campbell was bearing down, he made the play he needed to. I thought he looked better than we've ever seen him in the interior at inside backer.
Yeah, it's just going to be learning every nuance of that position. And honestly, like he has said in interviews, patience, right? Right. This isn't a position where you could just fly down and make every single play. You got to go through your reads and progressions. And I think he's going to be a good player for LSU next year.
What did you make of the play that he had? I think it was either against Xavier Thomas or Aaron Anderson. They ran a little bubble screen. The motion comes in and then the screen. He goes in there and makes the TFL. What did you make of seeing him go from the inside, run that all the way down, and make the play.
Yeah, it's there are quite a few people that want him and Weeks to be the starters. I do think that gives him the most athletic upside. But ultimately, let's just take Perk out of the equation, right? He also had a good play on Josh. That linebacker room also needs to be a little bit deeper, right? And I'm crossing my fingers because this kid gave me the best interview I've ever given a recruit. And I love my Bryce Underwood interview that's coming out tomorrow. But Xavier Atkins moved my soul with some of the things that he shared about his life story and all of that. I hope there's a youngster. Maybe it's him. Maybe it's someone else. Tylen Singleton, someone else that we also interviewed. Hopefully it's one of those guys that could be a younger guy that can help out. Because I know there's so much focus on the secondary, Blake, and the defensive tackle room. I am not overly comfortable with the overall depth of that group either. I do think they need one other guy to step up and be a bona fide guy, kind of like Weeks was last year for LSU.
So you're saying depth from just a quality standpoint and see what we have. You're not numbers wise. I mean, because they got numbers there, but you're just
I'm just talking about someone because I've heard good things about Wes Weeks during this offseason, and he's not really played a whole lot his first couple years at LSU.
Right.
So can he be that guy? It could be him. But ultimately, Blake, they've really have to have better safety play. It's a non-negotiable. And yeah, I know everyone wants to put it on Sage Ryan once again we're not in that meeting room or whatever. It's just got to be better, and hopefully it is when the season comes around.
What'd you make of Colin Jackson's day?
Yeah, he's really good, Blake. And look, it's been a lot of like off the field kinds of things, what Brian Kelly has said in press conferences, and he was asked directly about Kylan after this game, and it's not off the field like bad stuff; it's just growing.
Like, hey, you can't bring your chains out on the field,
right?
Stuff like that, right?
I think Kylan's really good. I do. I don't know if I would call him like special, but I had a year 2 grade on him, which means year 2 he's ready to play in the SEC. So it didn't necessarily shock me like that he did some good things and had that really good play versus Shelton in the red zone. But I really would like to see him get some run next year.
I think at minimum they're going to have to start like BK's going to have to come off the older guy experience thing. He's just like he doesn't, and that's what he leans on. He's got to come off of it because, look, I like Major Burns, and I actually thought Major Burns in that star position made 3 big time plays. The PBU on Garrett Nussmeier, he tricked Garrett into throwing the football. BK walked through that in this press conference. He thought it was the best. And that was the thing that Brian Kelly talked about with Major. Like Major, he talked about how he psyched out Garrett Nussmeier, played a little cat and mouse with him, and got the PBU. He had 2 tackles at the line of scrimmage that were really nice. Maybe he has come around, but you know what? He did not get beat. Name one time that you saw him in coverage. I mean, in an actual like they're throwing the ball at him. That's what teams did last year. They attacked him. They didn't go at him. I do think him coming down the line of scrimmage is a lot better. Now, Kylan Singleton's a guy that I just don't know from a physical standpoint, Carter, that you can keep off the field. I really don't, because he is better than what you have right now.
Yeah, I'm with you, Blake. And, one more thing I would say defensively is I still think McBride is going to be the best defensive player in this class. So
I do too.
I'm really excited.
He's the #1 overall player in the state, and I got laughed at.
Yeah, I got there too. I mean, I really do think he's the best defensive player in this class, and hopefully number 10. Even though it wasn't like the most highlight worthy play, I'm going to stick with my guns here, and I think eventually he will start a game next year for LSU.
All right, let's go over to the offense. We've gone about 20 minutes before we've mentioned Garrett Nussmeier. Your thoughts on his performance? Well, let me lead off with this. Let's start with the first part and then talk about the scrimmage part. Carter, he didn't look good in the red zone, and that's an area that you and I discussed last week. Remember, we talked last week in reference to I was like, man, he's got to get better under center. He's got to do some different. Like I was still high on him, and I still kind of am high on him to some extent. I mean, I am.
Yeah.
But in the red zone, Carter, I haven't seen him throw a touchdown all spring. And he got 12 plays in the red zone. Carter, the only time that LSU scored was running the football. And he missed Chris Hilton. He missed Kyron Lacey twice. He missed C.J. Daniels. And so you're talking about 12 plays where you got 4 or 5 passes, and you're 0 for 5. So I look at that and say, what did you make of his red zone to start off? Even though let me say this before I stop. He won the day. He won the day. So I am just trying to break down everything that he did, not just one specific thing.
Yeah, it wasn't his best performance
At all.
So actually, I know you want to move on to offense, but I'm going to make one more defensive point. Okay. This is why safety was the lowest graded position for me on defense. All right. You have to make touchdown saving tackles for all those reasons you just gave, because and what a touchdown saving tackle is basically bringing a guy down before he scores, right? If they give a 50, 60 yard gain, sure, that happens, but run them down. If you got a horse collar and do whatever, and you're not going to do that in a spring game, whatever. But that's why those stats that you just gave, you want to force other teams to convert in the red zone. And a lot of the DBs that came back from last year's team on this year's team, they struggled to do that again on Saturday. So that's why you got to make teams convert in the red zone. And Garrett Nussmeier as a red zone quarterback, Blake, he's had issues. He's had interception issues. He's had conversion issues when he's played in the past. But overall, he did look sharp. He did look in command of the offense. He does also have the benefit of not getting hit, but not only not getting hit, he had pristine pass protection. The guys up front did a really good job of protecting for him. And if guys are running wide open, you would like to see him make those throws. Now, he did have a really good throw on a 2nd and long to Mason Taylor on his upfield shoulder to make it a 3rd and manageable that I thought was really, really impressive. So overall, a really good day for Garrett Nussmeier, and he furthers the distance between him and the next quarterback.
Oh, God, heavens, yes. I mean, heavens, yes.
Yeah.
Let's get to him and the overall scrimmage. Your thoughts on just how – I mean, look, he was perfect. I mean, he was 7 for 7. He had 180-plus yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, Carter, he cannot be better than he was on Saturday.
Yeah, and even though the red zone portion was tough, you could just see he's just in command of everything. I thought his play speed was very impressive. And honestly, I think when you look at the QB hierarchy in the SEC, he's got to be in pretty much everyone's top 5. And it's a really good SEC QB year next year, even though there's a bunch of first-time, full-time starters. So I think Garrett's going to be ready to go, and I think this offense that surrounds him is going to be really, really, really good.
All right. Look, I do think that him and Kyron, because, look, they got a lot of reps together. I know Kyron was the number 3 last year, but they still got a lot of reps together last year. It's benefiting them. And, I think that he's starting to form a connection with C.J. Daniels. Your thoughts on the connection that him and Kyron Lacey have right now?
Yeah, it's pretty elite, and Kyron has a chance to really have a single season that is truly special. Now, you look at the SEC hierarchy of receivers. I put him firmly in the top 5, top 10 range right now, and it's once again another good year for SEC receivers. Next year with Barry and Brown, Trey Harris, and so on and so on. So I really like Kyron going into next year, and I just go back to me, and I'm just going to stick to my guns here. Xavion Thomas, man, once everything just gets under wraps for him, he is going to give them a yak option that is going to be truly spectacular. So I'm really excited to see how he grows. I was excited to see Aaron Anderson take a step forward in his game as well. And CJ Daniels did some really good things. So overall, the skill guys for LSU, Blake, had a pretty good day.
Carter, does LSU have the best offensive line in the country?
Yeah, but I think this is the best LSU offensive line that I've seen. I really do think this group is going to be that good.
Are they the best in the country?
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, obviously, every year we know Kirby's going to have a good offensive line at Georgia.
They dominated on Saturday, by the way.
Yeah,
Georgia's stupid.
and look, there are plenty of other great LSU offensive lines. 2019's offensive line, 2007 offensive line. I mean, there's plenty of good ones. I just think this is the best one I've personally seen. And your big performer was DJ Chester. He was really good.
Fantastic.
All the snaps are on the money. No wild snaps, really, that I can remember. I missed some in the second half, but
he's got he needs to take a little bit of the heat off because he's tipping off if it's a run or pass because if it's a run, he's getting it out a little bit quicker, a little bit harder.
That's what I came here for, so I can hear that.
Yeah, when it's a passing play, he's not getting it back there as fast. So, look, that's something that he's got to like. Brad can't tell him that because he's got to pick that. That's got to be up on his own. But it's someone who played that position religiously. He's got to take some heat off those run play snaps.
But I feel a lot better when you were saying, "Hey, he looks pretty good," and
phenomenal. I mean. Jacoby and Guillory, I mean, with all due respect to that young man, DJ Chester's numbers imprinted in his chest. I mean, he Carter. I mean, the long run by Caleb Jackson, and this isn't the first time. I mean, like we broke things down on our scrimmages or the first two scrimmages they had on those Saturdays. It's not the first time that these running backs have run wide open. Carter, they're running different things schematically, like the power that you saw or the counter when the guard and tackle would pull. I love what they're doing with the running game, man. I love this. I love that they're being dynamic. And because not only are they being dynamic, they got the dudes that can be dynamic. And you know what happens when you're not having to just do zone blocking schemes and you have a pull and you can pull and you run power and counter. That defensive end's not going to be crashing in the way that he used to because he's going to get cracked. So I think not only are they the best offensive line, but I got to give Joe Sloan and Brian Kelly a lot of credit. Yeah. The way that they're doing things and running the football, Carter, you made Josh Williams look like an All-American on Saturday to some extent. I mean, dude was breaking tackles. He was going untouched, even though he runs a 4.7.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked great.
Yeah, like the only thing that I would say is, like, I thought the run blocking wasn't the absolute worst. It wasn't the absolute best. Maybe mix up the sequencing of your runs. It looks like there were times where, the defense was just sitting and they kind of could see what was coming. But overall, that first team offensive line just looks really, really, really good. And the thing is, if that position group is exceptional, it can rise and lift everyone else up, even if there is a bit of a drop off in running back depth, even if you don't have Malik and BTJ out there, and you have, a new first time quarterback replacing one of the best Heisman quarterback seasons we've ever seen. So I think this offensive line is really going to carry LSU to some victories next year.
I know you hate me when I say this, but
no.
They got to slow it down. If you can run the ball like that and play, because here's my theory. You ready? My theory would be if you slow it down. I'm not saying a lot. I'm not saying going less miles slow. If you did have drives where you slowed some things down, I think Blake Baker with enough time on the sideline with his guys can make the adjustments to where you can get stops. And Carter, if you can make stops, you can get the same amount of possessions, right? Like it's just mathematically possible. So I do think that you can lean on teams. Like I think that you can lean on USC, and when you get in a crunch, you can really just overpower them running the football, which gives me hope that you can win. Defense, a whole different thing. But I do think that they're the best offensive line in the country, and I think you have fixed one side of the line of scrimmage where the other one is abysmal. Now, let me ask you the big elephant in the room. Are we making too much of this offensive line because of how bad the defense is?
I was thinking that when I was watching them this weekend, Blake, but I would say no because they were mostly elite last year. Now, does it help that, you're going up against this defensive line. Yeah, it does. And there's no doubt about that. But honestly, I'm still very bullish on this group. And hopefully they live up to my lofty expectations. I'm not one to say greatest of all time too often, but I think they're going to be very special next year.
All right, one last position group before I get your breakout players and get you out of here on offense. Yeah. What were your thoughts on Caleb Jackson, Josh Williams in the running game?
Yeah, Josh had a very impressive blitz pickup on Perk. And, we couldn't get the comeback from Ricky to Kyron on a third and whatever it was. Josh is just a very good player. I mean, he probably won't get drafted. He probably won't be all SEC, but this guy has been in 2-minute drills since 2020. I mean, he was on the field for the Marco Wilson shoe throw. He has a 2019 LSU national championship ring, and he's the heart and soul of this team. And he's
got to be your number 18.
Yeah, I that's where I would go. I would go. I mean, there's always a few other candidates, but it's got to go in that direction. But I also think Caleb did really well. Obviously housing that football was very impressive. And obviously the next step is just becoming a more well-rounded back. And look, part of it for him next year is going to be how much can Caden Durham cut into their carries if he is ready to go as a true freshman, which I think he will be. But yeah, Caleb has the clearest route to the workhorse role that we've seen at the LSU running back position in quite some time, and hopefully he delivers.
You think he can have a Clyde type impact?
Not quite, because Clyde never really left the field, after that Texas game and after, Leonard Fournette left the team. It just became the Clyde show. I think Josh gives you just too much as a personal protector and big moment guy that you want him out there in those 2-minute drill situations. But as an actual modern day running back, yes, I think he will have a 60-40 work share with Josh next year with some Caden Durham split in there as well.
All right. Who are some of your breakout guys offensively not named Garrett Nussmeier? And let me say this too, not named Kyron Lacey.
Yeah, so let's go Kamarion Pimpton. I was very excited to see some of the things he was able to do. Now, everyone knows Mason Taylor is an absolute beast. He was the number 1 run blocking tight end in the SEC last year per PFF. I would like to see, and this has probably happened. Obviously I'm not privy to every last bit of information, but I would like to see Kamarion Pimpton get some more run with the ones, not over Mason Taylor, because Mason is the best tight end on the team, and there is a gap between him and everyone else. But Pimpton gives you something as a pass catcher, and I would like to see him get more reps just to see him develop into a player. Because Trey'Dez Green is coming, and he wants to be a part of the tight end room, or he could just be a big receiver on the outside. So Kamarion Pimpton, definitely that guy for me offensively, because he did some really good things on Saturday.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Blake. One guy defensively I thought that did some good things was Paris Shand. He had some ups and downs last year. And look, that defensive end room has a lot of bodies in there. It has Savion Jones in there. It has Deshaun Womack in there. It has now a rising Gabriel Relaford. But, Paris Shand has obviously been around the block. He's one of the older guys in that room. And I thought he did some good things over the weekend. And I thought Ashton Stamps had a few good moments this weekend as well, with Zy Alexander getting back healthy. And I think Zy will start next year, but Stamps and Woodland and maybe a few others are going to push for some playing time.
I can't let you leave, but before asking you about Gabe Relaford.
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't want to overreact, but he had 2 sacks.
Yeah, and I think Gabe's really good. Athleticism wise, he is very gifted, right? He's a track and field athlete. He has some scheme versatility. When I spoke to him, he's pretty adamant on playing strong side end, but I think if push came to absolute shove, he could give you some 3-tech reps in a passing situation. So yeah, I like Gabe a lot. I've gotten to know a little bit about his family as well. Interviewed him a few weeks ago. I'm really excited about his prospects. Like Brian Kelly said, they're going to see if he could do it against some of the better players on this team, the Campbells and the Jones of the world. Also thought at the end, Kalash Cobbins had a really, really nasty swim move there. Once again, that was the backups, Colin Hurley reps. And of course, everyone's talking about Colin Hurley right now. I was very excited to see him as a guest on both of our programs, do really good stuff. So really, really pumped up about that young man's future as well.
The only thing with Hurley, he threw it to a scholarship wide receiver on a 7th-string walk-on. So
yeah, of course.
But of all the 4 quarterbacks, him and Garrett Nussmeier spin it the best.
Yeah,
it's not even a question.
Yeah, and what's funny was I thought Swan actually had some good ball locations. It only had the pick in the red zone portion, but yes, if you're just looking at them as throwers, Colin and Garrett are the best throwers on this team, and Colin Hurley is one of the youngest LSU football players ever. And what's crazy is he reclassified up. So, and he's still one of the youngest LSU football players ever. So even if he would have stayed in 2025, he still would have been very young for that class. So now he is very, very, very young at a position that requires the most mental aptitude in maybe all of sports. So really impressed with Colin. You could see he puts a lot of work in.
Yeah, Rutherford almost got his 3rd sack. If Hurley wouldn't have let that thing go, Hurley just said, "Screw it, I'm throwing it down there somewhere."
Yeah, that was. I actually thought Gabe was going to play in him. I'm glad he didn't.
Well, the quarterbacks that don't have the red jerseys can be hit.
Yeah, that's I feared for Colin's life.
Well, I'm glad they did, because it showed that he actually can make the throw with somebody in his face.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm really, really excited about some of the youth on this team. Because Blake, it's like you said a minute ago, and like you said on your channel, it's don't just play experienced players just because they're experienced, right? You obviously need to give Blake Baker some time, because we've seen him do big transformations with players at Missouri, and then obviously famously at LSU with Damon Clark. But
who was with Blake Baker all day on Saturday. Was on the sideline standing right next to Blake Baker, by the way.
So the point here is we would like to think that the new coaching staff can come in and fix every single player, move them to this position, move them to that position, new coaching staff, new diet, new whatever. But not everyone takes leaps, right? Like, in fact, more players do not take leaps forward than do, right? Not everyone is Damon Clark. Not everyone is Cordell Flott, who made a massive leap in that final season, same season as Damon Clark. Every year there's one or two, but not every single one of them can do it. So there comes a time where you have to say, well, maybe we should just play the young guys, and maybe that group is special, and then you'll see if you for real have something on your roster at all.
Carter, the Power Bryant.
We'll see you, man. Congrats. You're over 1,000 shows, right?
No, we're at 916.
916. Okay, so I was on show 900. Yeah, and we got 1,000.
How crazy is it, man? It feels. I don't even feel like that's been 2 weeks.
Huh?
We're getting old, Carter. We're getting gray hair everywhere, man.
All right, buddy. We'll see you.
See ya. That's Carter, the Power Bryant, always joins us on Monday. Fantastic in everything that he does. All right, we went a little bit longer than we probably should have. That is on me, but it is Carter, and it is Carter time. All right, we'll see y'all tomorrow, man. Peace.